Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-ohger episode 44. An overall solid episode that acts primarily as kind of a setup of some of the status quo going into this final arc, as well as a bit of a kind of status quo check-in for the team, and I'd say a little bit of focus too, I mean not a little bit, but a focus on Yamma and Rackley's and drawing a little bit of parallels between some understanding there. So you have, I mean, first of all, you start off having Rackley's, being kind of indentured to all the different kingdoms to do different tasks, and Yamma is like humiliating him by making him wear a robot outfit, and he's used a lot more for comedy in this. I can't actually recall too many times Rackley's was ever used for comedy in his villain days, but he definitely has had more comedic bits in this and later when he's narrating the fight and stuff like that, so that was kind of funny a little bit. But anyway, like, Yamma clearly still holds a lot of hatred to Rackley's, which is kind of nice, not because like I don't want everyone to get along or anything, but because it's realistic. Even though we found out what he was doing was for good reason, he did do a lot of bad stuff, and in a lot of ways I forgot, not that he did bad stuff, but I forgot about some of the specific moments they flashed to with Yamma, so I think that's a lot more realistic than something like MMPR where they're like, well, golly gee, Tommy, let's get friendship bracelets now. So I really like that. That's not a knock at Sentai superior to PR, just that particular storyline. Don't come out of the woodwork, Sentai purists. But basically, though, they discover that the power they need, or another way to fight Dugded, since Gira didn't work, is that there was this power long ago that the kings used, which in a way it's not confusing, but it's a little bit weird because like obviously both Gira and this power in some way came from Dugded initially, so I guess it's kind of funny that he put something out there that could kill him. I guess his overconfidence was his weakness, but anyway, it was the power long ago that the kings used to defeat the Bugnarok, and it's all separated into their individual symbols, which is the symbols we see in the series. And again, that does just seem weird, like I almost wish that there was some sort of outside solution they found, because everything is so tied to Dugded, and again, they might just chalk it up to be, or you have to infer it, that he was just so overconfident that he put these things out there that could kill him. But it also seems crazy, and it also seems like, I don't know, kind of weak sauce where they're like, I can't believe I just said weak sauce just then. Also just seems kind of weak that like this great power was what defeated the Bugnarok long ago, but it feels like the Bugnarok don't feel like that big of a threat compared to these guys. I'm like, well, that Bugnarok, big deal. That's like bragging about someone beating Nappa when you're in the Majin Buu saga. The power levels are completely different. Anyway, bottom line is they need to figure that out, and they need to figure out who's leader. Rackley's is like, well, you're not going to be able to do this until you figure out who's leader. And it leads to this challenge game, which is a little bit silly, where they have these balloons on their head, but there's a bunch of funny little moments, like when Rita quits because they want to save this Muffin doll, or my favorite was like Dabowski trying to stop Himeno from hitting his head by putting members of her family's pictures there so she doesn't want to hit them. And she's initially reluctant, but then she's just like, oh, to hell with it. And then they just keep popping up and she keeps hitting him after that. It's just funny because it starts out as like, oh, I can't hit the face of my friend or whatever. And then after the 15th one, it's just like, die, 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 die. I mean, she doesn't say that, but you get the picture. It was overall funny. And then after like that game doesn't work, it devolves into like wrestling and fighting. And then Yanma's like, I have discovered how to take advantage of the power. Unlimited power. It was like that scene from Rise of Skywalker where the lightning just raises down. Don't fear the feeble attack, my faithful. That wasn't even a Palpatine voice. Anyway, so, and then that like blast knocks Gira off. Well, I'm surprised he survived that fall. And you see that the townspeople are fighting, and it's the monster whose name I don't remember, who, one of the monsters that has the ability to make people argue and stuff. And the whole gist of this ultimately ends up being Yamma goes mad with power because of this, and Gira reminds him of who he is and brings him back. And like the main point of that story was for him to gain an understanding of Rackley's and what he went through and getting lost in the power and stuff like that, to kind of put him on the road to just understanding and maybe forgiving Rackley's. That was the main part, as well as, of course, reminding Yamma of who he is and that people can change like Rackley's and himself, and him bringing up uniting the Six Kingdoms again and signing the sex contract, or whatever they kept calling it. They said, I want to sign the sex tract again, or whatever they kept calling it. I said whatever they kept calling it twice. Get a new script. The script's all on my mind. Anyway, so they unite again, and the whole shtick is like, okay, the powers are united, but it's super powerful, so they need to keep each other in check. And that was the main point of this, was to get them all emotionally in a place where they want to make this, uniting contract again, and also for Yamma to understand Rackley's. And they do defeat the monster with a classic mecha battle. My only nitpick about this episode, and it is really kind of a nitpick, is that I hate that it was that monster yet again making people fight. I think it was kind of unnecessary for the people on the ground. I think you still could have accomplished the idea that they would want to hold some sort of contest to figure out who's leader. And they also say, like, we don't even need a leader. I'm like, dude, you know it's Gira because you think he's a specialist Sentai boy. Anyway, I think that they still could have pulled off the same plot. I mean, I don't think Yamma would have gone as hard with how crazy he was, but I think that you still could have had him be a little bit corrupt. You know, not corrupt, but you know what I mean. I think they still would have fought over this thing, and then Yamma would have gained the upper hand, and maybe for a split second felt that mad with power feeling. Again, not to the degree where he's palpatining people and stuff, but I think it could have been accomplished without that. It's a very minor nitpick, but it has something. It is something that I've brought up before with King-ohger. Is despite how much I love the series, I do feel they very often loop to several different things they keep doing. Whether it was the way that Rackley's and Gira were fighting, or the public opinion constantly changing against the Rangers. This feels like yet another thing that's happened like 4 times now. And I get that's her power, and it's gonna maybe come into play every time they see her. But it feels like despite how unique King-ohger is, there's several different like plot narratives they just use too many times, and I felt that was unnecessary. And I think it actually would have had more impact if it would have come naturally from him. Again, he wouldn't have gone as crazy, but I think if he had approached that ledge, it would have made more sense him understanding Rackley's if it would have been him going to that and not being influenced by anything in any way. But that's overall a minor nitpick. I still found it to be a solid episode. I hesitate to call it a setup episode because it was a pretty good episode that put our characters in the right place, but it definitely sort of set the stage for what I'm going to assume is the final arc. We only have a handful of episodes left, but I'm like really curious if this conflict will happen sooner than I'm thinking, and the rest of the episodes will be filled out different. There's a chance we could get 1 to 2 episodes that deal with the King-ohger stuff, or the King-ohger. This whole thing is the King-ohger stuff, but the Kyoryuger stuff, but I'll be curious to see. But what did you guys think of the episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.